Hi guys, welcome to this battle report on 1,000 points of Lizardmen against 1,000 points of Brettonians. There will be feedback in this report as I was playing against Richard, one of my students. So a quick look at the army lists there for you in case you want to pause. My two skink priests both rolled character boosting spells and both took Wysons. His damsel at level 2 took Shield of Thorns and Earthblood regen spell. So here we are in deployment. Starting on my side, I've got the 2 units of Ripperdactyls in the far right there, escorted by the BSBUs, essentially a minder for them with that re-rollable leadership because they are of course frenzied. The 2 skink units in front of them both contain a priest, one is my general, then another unit of skinks in the middle and a hunting pack just by the building there on the bottom right. Top left, my opponent's put his 2 yeomen out there, separated them from the knights, which I think is quite smart really because they're not going to be blocking any charges against my flyers. Big unit, bunker unit there for the damsel. Not particularly effective, I don't think. I think she'd be better served in a lance formation with some knights. Next to them, Knights of the Realm, Men-at-Arms, and then Grail Knights in the bottom left corner there. So before we start Vanguards, I've taken Vanguards with my Ripperdactyls there. My opponent decided not to Vanguard, which was a bit of a missed trick really, as you will see when you see how the game unfolds. So into my turn 1, the unit of Ripperdactyl riders furthest away did manage to get out of the arc of sight of the yeoman. The other unit didn't. The BSB has escorted both units. Skinks have moved up and advanced. Closest to us, the unit of skinks closest to the house switched with the salamanders. Obviously those knights on the opposite side of the battlefield posing quite a threat to my salamanders, so I'm hoping to block with some skinks there and get the salamanders some time to breathe some fire. Not a lot really happening for me in my turn 1. All of my skink skirmishers are out of shooting range, as are my salamanders. I did cast Wysons on the Ripperdactyl unit that's in the charge arc there on the far side of the board, and that was it. I didn't cause a single casualty in my turn 1. So at the end of my opponent's movement phase, you can see there the yeomen have charged the Ripperdactyls on the side. The other unit of yeomen are advancing on my 2 skink skirmisher units, threatening both priests. The knights have advanced towards the river and the men-at-arms offering support. Notably, the bunker in the middle has not reformed, and this is opening it up to a flank charge from my Ripperdactyls in the far left corner. So at the end of my opponent's phase, you can see that the yeomen have been wiped out by those Ripperdactyls. Wyson's wild form came in to play a lot here, and they were sort of able to overpower the yeomen quite easily, which has actually set my opponent up because now those Ripperdactyls have a flank charge on the other unit of yeomen, which is quite unfortunate for my opponent really. So into my following turn, the Ripperdactyls in the middle have charged the yeomen on the flank. The Ripperdactyls on the left have charged that big bunker unit. That bunker unit does have a block toad on them, so that's going to be ugly. The skirmishers, skink skirmishers closest to us have blocked those knights off from charging my salamanders, which means that my salamanders are able to approach the hill to breathe some fire on those men-at-arms. My 2 skink units further back there are just advancing really. They both hold skink priests, so not much for them to do except hold back. So at the end of my turn here, on the left the Ripperdactyls have caused the bowmen to flee. Only leadership 7 in there with that damsel, an area for my opponent to think about. The Ripperdactyls in the middle got Weisson's wild form on them again, which meant that the skinks on top of the Ripperdactyls were charging with spears, making them strength 5, and the Ripperdactyls were strength 5, so they overcame the bowmen easily. The skinks in front of the Knights of the Realm in the middle, you can see, didn't do very much with, well, didn't do anything with shooting, but that was to be expected. And the hunting pack took out about half of the men-at-arms, and we all know how deadly they are. The 2 skink units had nothing to shoot at and stayed around. So into my opponent's turn, he's charged those skinks there closest to us. You can see he has rallied the bowmen and rearranged them into 4 ranks and moved the men-at-arms up a little. The Grail Knights have crossed the river. So at the end of my opponent's phase, you can see those knights in the middle have steamrolled through the skinks as expected. The skinks did manage to inflict a wound, I think, from standard shoot and perhaps even another one in combat, so well done skinks. But the Knights of the Realm have bounced off those Grail Knights there, which of course has exposed them to a Ripperdactyl rear charge, which is particularly precarious when you see that that unit also has a Block Toad with them. On the left, those bowmen have been bolstered by Shield of Thorns, which was particularly good play on my opponent's part. So into my turn, the Ripperdactyls have charged the Knights of the Realm in the rear there. I've moved the Salamanders up onto the hill to breathe some fire onto the men-at-arms, and the Ripperdactyls have charged the bowmen on the left there. The 2 supporting skink units with skink priests have just sort of moved up to ensure that my spellcasters are in range. So here we are at the end of my turn. Starting on the left there, I really made a bit of a mistake really. I knew that Shield of Thorns had been cast on those bowmen and I still sent the Ripperdactyls after them. I really wanted to see how they would fare. I really should have sent them at the men-at-arms and dealt with the bowmen with the Salamanders from a distance, but didn't. In the middle, the Ripperdactyls have broken the Knights of the Realm with the BSB who are fleeing and have overran into the flank of the Grail Knights. The Salamanders did a spectacularly bad job this time. 1 misfired and ate a crewman, and the other rolled a 10 and managed to take out 1 man-at-arms, so not their most glorious moment. So here we are at the end of my opponent's turn. I think we forgot to take a photograph actually, but the men-at-arms charged the Salamanders, which didn't go very well for them. Skinks did overperform though, in fairness. And the Ripperdactyls managed to break the Grail Knights, obviously charging on the flank with Weissons, those strength 5 skinks again, and overran into the Paladin and the Knights of the Realm. And the bowmen broke on the left side there and were pursued by the Ripperdactyls, although they managed to outsprint them remarkably. So yeah, the race goes on the left side of the board. It is notable that the positioning of units has allowed the Ripperdactyls to have a field day down the middle of the board. First with that unit of yeomen, then another unit of yeomen on the flank, which then led to an overrun with Knights of the Realm on the flank, which led to Grail Knights on the flank, and then finally Grail Knights in the then finally Knights of Realm in the front. So here we are at the end of my subsequent movement phase. The Ripperdactyls have chased the fleeing bowmen and caught them, and the fleeing men-at-arms were chased down by the Skink Chief on BSB. The Ripperdactyls there on the right by the house got obviously a lot of killing blow in that unit and managed to take out the the Knights of the Realm, and that was the end of the game, really. So, quite a brutal game, really. Little feedback from my opponent, Richard. I think you were right to separate the Yeomen away from the Knights at the start of the game, and that was a good thing, because obviously those Yeomen weren't going to be blocking any charges against my flyers, and you're quite wise to spot that. You also did a number of good jobs with the spells that you had, managing to use Shield of Thorns effectively on my Ripperdactyls, and that was a good thing as well. Your decisions as far as shooting and magic go were fairly well made. You didn't make any serious errors there, but the dice really did let you down, so not a lot you can do about that. I'm afraid it happens in the game. A couple of things for you to learn from this, though. The first mistake that you made was to not vanguard your Yeomen. That meant that my Ripperdactyls had a free run of the board. Had you have moved those Yeomen up, the Ripperdactyls would have had to have moved to protect my my priests, which would have changed the whole game for you, and they wouldn't have ran across the middle of the board as they did. Also, failing to reform that bowman unit at the start did mean that I was able to flank charge your wizard bunker, and that was a serious thing as well. I do think you should consider changing the composition of your army. I'm not sure about that bowman bunker unit. You might want to put the damsel on a warhorse and then organise your Knights of the Realm into a lance formation. Might provide her with a little more protection. Then of course you won't need as many bowmen, so you can buy yourself more knights. But all in all, you didn't do too badly. You represented yourself fairly well. So I'm looking forward to our next game, and let's see what you can learn from it. Well done, mate. Top job.